and welcome to yet another very exciting episode of the Maternity Show on ARTV with me, Sona Dabo. Today's episode is focused on a very, very important topic that I am so particular about because this topic actually affects almost everybody that you can think of. And this topic is non-communicable disease. To form a discussion around this, I have a very important guest from one of the oldest institutions in the Gambia. That is the Gambia College School of Public Health. All right, welcome, Mr. Kinte, to the Maternity Show.
Thank you, Sona, for the time, and it's my pleasure to be on this important emission.
Thank you, Mr. Kinte. We really appreciate the time you took to come and join us to discuss one of the most important topics that is affecting the world today. Because I think NCDs are something that most people don't talk about, but it is something that is really killing most people silently. And then I think there is a need for us to talk about it, especially when you look at maternity. So today we will be discussing on NCDs and pregnancy. But before we go further, I would like you to unpackage what NCDs are and what pregnancy is. Then we will try to link these two.
Thank you. It's a very important thing, and then NCDs and maternities are really public health trending issues that needs concerns of every individual. And then we know the Sustainable Development Goals calls for Goal 3 calls for good health and then well-being for every individual, irrespective. So looking at it, non-communicable diseases, shortly called NCDs, these are diseases that affect people that could not be transferred from one person to the other. But then it could be due to risk factors or genetical predispositions that are prone an individual to having these diseases. And then majorly among them, we have our hypertension, shortly called high blood pressure. We have diabetics, we have cancer, and then these are numerous diseases that affects individuals, and then it stays with them for a longer duration of time.
So we want to link this NCD to pregnancy. So from your introduction, you did mention that they involve lots of things, wherein cancer came into play, hypertension and all that. And you also did mention that it comes up as a result of some risk factors. So probably before we go into the discussion deeper, we will need to understand what risk factors are there that will drive us into having NCDs.
Okay, thank you. By looking at non-communicable diseases, among the risk factors, though we have to, which is inherited, that is in the genetics lineup. But then majorly in risk factors, these are things that one is in position or that affects an individual, making them prone to non-communicable disease. One of them is physical inactivity, meaning there is no exercise or little exercise is done by this individual. Another thing is tobacco consumption, be it smoke or smokeless tobacco that an individual uses that can prone an individual to non-communicable diseases that I have mentioned. Alcohol consumption, high alcohol consumption. Our diets played a major important role in these non-communicable diseases because like high intake of sodium and low intake of potassium prones an individual to these non-communicable diseases. Majorly psychological factors. One of them is a stress. Stress is a stressful life situation can lead an individual to abnormalities in their physiologies and then some functions which can prone them to non-communicable diseases. These are majorly the risk factors.
Yeah, so majorly the reason I want us to discuss NCDs and pregnancy, I feel like it's really complicated for a woman to go through pregnancy as a stressful activity and then add on it NCDs. So why do you think it's important for us to discuss pregnancy and NCDs?
This is quite important. Pregnancy, we know globally we are looking at reducing maternal mortality rate. If we go into statistics globally, you are told that almost 800 people died out of pregnancy related daily. So meaning in every 2 minutes, an individual dies out of pregnancy related conditions. And if you look at it, hypertension being a non-communicable disease accounts for almost up to 12% of more than that about maternal mortalities. So looking at it, there is a high incidence of non-communicable diseases associated with pregnancy because we know pregnancy is both a physiological and then physical conditions.
Sure.
And we know pregnancy to be a joy period.
Yeah.
And then it needs calls for celebration, that there is supposed to be an addition both in humanity and family lineage. So at that moment, that celebration was to be continuing for the rest of the situation. But now we see majorly pregnant women are suffering or have a condition that is attached to their pregnant condition that prone them to having these non-communicable diseases. And then it's really a global concern that women are going through pregnancies. At the end of a given life, you become either a victim, either in mortality or in morbidity, that you become disease or having a medical condition because of your pregnancy. So therefore, there is a link, great link between non-communicable diseases and pregnancy, which should be a concern
for everybody. So I think the more we talk about pregnancy and NCDs, the more we will try to enlighten how people can prevent or control it, so in case they come across it. But we also know that NCDs are numerous, and we might not be able to talk about all of them in this one episode. So I want us to focus on diabetes and let's say hypertension. So when you look at diabetes, we know it's a condition that women that are pregnant can go through. How does this happen to a pregnant woman?
Okay, well, for diabetics, there are two types. We have insulin dependency and non-insulin dependency. But there is another type that specifically to pregnant women, which we call gestational diabetics. Gestational diabetics happens to women that are pregnant due to some physiological abnormalities, and then that affects their insulin compatibility. And then in that sense, it affects them, and then there are lot of complications to diabetics in pregnancy, and then this can affect both the mother and then the child, because the insulin dependency in this manner, because of pregnancy, sometimes called pregnancy-induced diabetics, can affect an individual who is pregnant. And then it starts at the time this woman got conceived and then goes through. And then it can come at a time that is very critical to both the pregnancy and also the life of the unborn fetus. So if there is no care that is required or sufficient care that is required, this can harm both the pregnant woman and also the unborn child, both during pregnancy, that's intrauterine. It could also happen during delivery, and then post-delivery, then all can affect both lives.
So that means diabetes does not only affect the mother, but it also affects the baby along the line.
Obvious.
So that is just one part, which is on the diabetes aspect. So let's also have one or two highlights on hypertension.
Yeah, hypertension is also important. Sometimes now it's called a silent killer, because there is a rise in the blood pressure beyond the normal. So the blood pressure is measured in millimeter of mercury. Normal blood pressure is 120 millimeter mercury to 180. The diastolic is 120, and then the systolic is 120, while the diastolic is 80 millimeter mercury. But because of certain conditions, like I've mentioned, those risk factors and some situations, because of the pregnancy itself, we also have what we call pregnancy-induced hypertension. Could be an individual is hypertensive and goes into pregnancy. That's one. But could be this a lady got pregnant, but because of the pregnancy, the physiological and physical changes, then this individual or this woman got high blood pressure. So it's read on more than 3 occasions, and then it's confirmed that this woman has hypertension. We call it what we call pregnancy-induced hypertension. And then likewise for diabetics, this pregnancy-induced hypertension has a risk on both the mother, the unborn fetus, and then in fact it could lead to so many complications during pregnancy.
So I think that is really a sad occurrence. So I think at this point, it's going to be important if women that are preparing to go into pregnancy to go ahead and do some of these checks before they become pregnant. Because one way they will understand that I am suffering from diabetes or I am having hypertension, and it could serve as a means of controlling this and affecting the babies along the line. So what do we tell women that are preparing to become pregnant?
The first thing is preparation. That preparation is one thing that you needed to know within the family lineage. Is there any member of your family that has suffered from hypertension? Because that family history will be very, very important to ensure that yes, you are at risk. Meaning one of your family member has hypertension, be it from the maternal or the paternal side. So in that manner is an alert that you need to be on watch out. So meaning you need to be scrutinized, you need to be checked on regular basis. The other thing is, aside from the family history, this individual who got pregnant or who is already about to be pregnant has to know that, yes, what is my own blood pressure level? So meaning you need to go for checkups to find out whether your pressure is between the normal range, which I've said 120
and
over
80.
180 millimeter mercury. If it is beyond that, then you will be advised. With the family history, then the risk factors that attached to it, you will be advised accordingly what you needed to do. And then looking at it, like the risk factors I've mentioned, if in case you are either pre-hypertensive or pre-diabetics in that situation, or there is a family history of this, you needed to be advised. One of them is, well, if you are an individual who has developed weight, you need to at least control your weight. That weight needs to be controlled, and which is very, very important.
Sure.
In controlling your weight, then it comes with what? Diet.
Yes.
And in that diet, meaning you need to have high potassium intake and low sodium intake. These are quite important. Then you also needed to eat things that are rich in fruits and vegetables. We know we have a lot of them, and then they are in abundance, that are very, very important to you to ensure that your physiology would be very normalized, and then your blood pressure will be okay. Because having that weight, what it does is it has an effect on your blood vessels. And then the more you are obese or overweight, now it causes an exertion or constriction onto your blood vessels. And then in that constriction, there is a chance that at the end of it, what it does, it can force the heart to pump the pressure with an elevated situation or under stressful situation. That's one second thing. The other thing, if you are, we know in the Gambia precisely, not many women are smoking, but notwithstanding, we need to talk about it. It's a risk factor.
Sure.
If you are a smoker, but looking at smoking, we have for us primary smokers,
and secondary
in fact, we
smokers,
have what we call the third hand smokers.
Wow.
So here we need to look at it. Watch out. If you are smoking, you need to stop smoking immediately.
So who are the secondary and the tertiary, so that they know?
The secondary might be your husband smokes with you, within the same level or within a confine. Or the tertiary is talking about what? Conditions in which, like, someone who smokes, be it in a place or in a situation, after smoking there, you have an access to that area or that thing. Like if I smoke on my clothing, these smokes are attached to it, or the chemicals are attached to it. If my wife washes it, or sometimes
and still inhale
it at the end of the day, that is, she's not there while I'm smoking. And then other things, it was not at that time, but actually she has used a thing, or she has a situation with a thing, or she come in contact with something that is almost having a smoke stain onto it, or something very important.
I think that part is really important, because we would see most women, they would want to chat with their husband while they're smoking, not knowing the risks attached to that. It means in as much as you are not smoking, but you're still smoking, because you're a secondary smoker, and this would have effects on your health as a person. So I think that advice is going to every woman out there. If you can't stop your husband, which we will always advise, make sure you are always away from him while he's smoking, to avoid being attached to him. So, Mr. Kinte, we've already discussed hypertension and pregnancy. We've also discussed on diabetes and pregnancy. Now we want to understand if at all we are not able to prevent this as a pregnant woman, and now let's say as a pregnant woman I'm already hypertensive, or I am a diabetic patient, what should I do?
Okay, as a pregnant woman who is both either hypertensive or diabetics is quite important. The first thing, immediately your pregnancy is confirmed, you needed to go for what we call antenatal services. This antenatal service is quite important to ensure that at least this woman is checked on regular basis, and then to ensure, one, her health status, that is both physically, she is healthy, mentally she is healthy, and also to check her pregnancy too. So in that manner, if the individual is hypertensive, the blood pressure must be checked. That's quite important. The reading of it must be recorded. And then the woman should be informed whether the blood pressure is elevated, rise or not. And then the weight has to be monitored. Because we know, like I've mentioned, overweight and obesity is a risk factor to these conditions. So if the woman's weight is monitored on every pregnancy, there is an increase of 1 or 2 in every month, that kilos that will be added. But excessively, if kilos are added, at the end of the day, it's telling you that something is going wrong somewhere else. And that, if that is monitored, it could help this individual. The other thing, for the diabetics, the blood sugar has to get checked. So the blood sugar reading will be either on fastings or random blood sugar level that will be done. So as it is read, your healthcare worker will discuss with you whether it's elevated, whether the blood sugar is rise or not. And then in that manner, the advice would be you take care of yourself. In that condition, if you are prescribed any medication, because we know is quite important. If like prevention at certain point could not be the could not be the overall solution, then you go in for to control it. And then those medications are given to control these conditions. So if any medication that is given to you, be it for your hypertension, that is to ensure that the blood flows is normal, the heart rate is normal, and then it ensures that there is no elevation, then needs to be taken. If in case of diabetics, the sugar level is checked and you are given some medications to ensure that your diabetic situation is monitored, is quite important. So these are things that could be done at medical level. But at individual level is quite important. First, you must have to be committed.
Exactly. I think that is very important. It's not just from the health centers. Perfect. You have to take part in this whole process.
Perfect. So that commitment has to be that, yes, you should be available at the facilities for your regular antenatal services. Then you should know, not only go in there precisely, okay, let me check your blood pressure. Your blood pressure is right. Okay, I'm fine. You go. No, you need to know. Ask the health workers to give you more information. It's a right of that person to know much about their condition. What should they do? Now, from the facilities, now you need to take care of yourself at the household. In the household, all that you needed to take your medications, change your behaviors, change your diet, and then exercise regularly. And then one of the things, pregnancy is a stressful situation, but then it should be the most joyful condition that one should, and this is what needs to be promoted.
Exactly.
A pregnant woman should be stress-free. She should be enjoying her life, and then she should be free from worries.
And knowing that she is hypertensive also could add on to her stress, and that would also cause another thing.
Obviously. That's why I said that pregnant woman should be the most joyful individual on the earth at that moment, because there are physiological and physical conditions that is at least changes. Those changes are happening. So she has to at least be stress-free and enjoy her life. Now, in that enjoyment, she needs to know what to eat. Eating what? Meaning she has to eat diets that are rich in what? Sodium, in potassium, and then low in sodium. We have a lot of sodium contents, ranging from our table salts, the jimbos, the magis, you name them, a lot. So putting all those things into your diet, and then also carbohydrate diet continually has an effect on your what? Blood pressure. So the thing that needs to be done is this woman has to eat a healthy diet. And then these healthy diets should involve fruits, and vegetables, and then minerals are very, very good for this woman. Now, the other thing is the woman herself has to exercise. If you said exercise, people will ask you, how can a pregnant woman who is so busy at the end of the day exercise? No, we don't expect her to go and start running 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, no. But actually can walk a distance.
I think it's one of the best that is even advised.
Obviously, can walk a distance. The best thing is goes out with the husband to the beach, or somewhere else where relaxing, they walk a longer distance, and then with good refreshment and then fluid intake that will really alleviate stress and suffering situations, and then that will ensure that the blood pressure becomes normal, and then the sugar level becomes also normal.
And this should be a routine thing for the woman.
Obviously.
So I think that part is really important, because there has been a point wherein I think we had this exercise on hypertension and pregnancy. And then along the line, we had a group of nurses that came to help us do some blood pressure checking. So they saw a woman that was walking dead. That's how they described the situation. So they were like, if the woman should fall at an instant, then that person might be very unfortunate, but we might lose her. So I think it's really very important for women to attend antenatal care services, because it's one way for them to ensure that they are checked and controlled when they are hypertensive or they are having diabetes. So we've been talking about pregnancy and NCDs. So do we have anything that NCDs would have as an impact on the baby after the pregnancy?
It's obvious. These are important things. there's we call complications. Complication could be on the maternal side and also onto the baby. And then in that, they have an impact. For instance, we know in hypertensive and diabetes on pregnancy, one of the complications is preeclampsia. Therein, you see the woman, the face will be swollen. There will be protein plus in the urine, and also you will have an edema, and
swollen leg,
swollen foot. Those things are things that could have happened to this woman. And then if this is not controlled, it could lead to what we call eclampsia. Eclampsia is fitting during pregnancy or during labor. And then one of the things that it could cause onto the fetus, one of the things is it could cause preterm delivery. Because these are conditions that affects. So if that happens, there is serious high blood pressure, which leads into eclampsia. One of the things is preterm delivery. So we know normally from 36 weeks upwards, there are chances that this woman delivers, and then those deliveries will be normal deliveries, and the baby will be healthy at that moment. So if, for instance, below that, and then this child or this fetus is born because of what? The hypertension or the diabetics, that's what we call preterm delivery. But it could also have an impact on the intrauterine growth, which we call intrauterine growth retardation. Because these are conditions that could happen. And then these growths that could have weight in the or excess or low. For instance, in diabetes, what we call as overgrown fetus in that area, because this individual is diabetics at the end of the day, because of that insulin compatibility and rising blood sugar. Now this baby could be a big baby, and many a time it could cause a call for some conditions like cesarean section, and then there could be difficulties or complications during delivery of these babies, and those are important. But then equally post-term, if this child grown up, there are chances that this individual born
might also develop diabetes.
Diabetics. Then because of family history, the individual could be hypertensive because of these situations that has happened during pregnancy. And then it could have some issues with some normal growth of this individual. And then those are the individual children that you will see start seeing what? They will obese at their childhood age. And then obesity even is malnutrition. Overnutrition or obesity is another malnutrition, because you have undernutrition or overnutrition, which is obesity, and then we have what we call micronutrients deficiency. So these are all three kinds of malnutrition. So looking at this situation can prone this child to those conditions, and then each of them has a complication on the development of this child. And then as the child is growing, it could easily affect this, and then to that extent, it could have some impact on the IQ, the intelligence quota of this child. So because of these complications, imagine having NCD and pregnancy blend together, complications arise, and then it doesn't only stop at the maternal side, but it goes affect the baby beyond that.
This
so
is a huge thing.
It's a serious condition, and then it's a serious situation that call for alarms and then also taken care of.
And I think for this to be curbed, we need all players to put their hands on deck, and this includes the men at home. What would you say would be their role?
It's quite important. We know men are the decision makers in the family. And then we know at this moment they have a greater role to play in both provision and equally protecting. So provision here means this woman has to be provided with all the services that she required. Most of the services, meaning going to the clinic, taking care of her, equally in case of her medication, she has to be taking them home regularly. That's an involvement of the men. And then equally, if there is addition or surplus that needs to be bought, the man has to come in and then provide them. But equally, they can also play a greater role in alleviating these situations. First, in the sense that there must be a free home. Free home that is based on dialogue, that is based on understanding, love, and caring. That is quite important to ensure that these individuals are rested, and then they also have good time to ensure that their situation. Like I said from the beginning, pregnancy is really a situation of both physiological and then physical changes. So at that moment, sometimes people become so easily irritated. So it is the man's role to ensure that the wife is taken care of.
And calm,
calm, and then she doesn't have to go through those stressful lives. What is wrong in providing some basic household parties, I would say, or spas for the woman, just to make her comfortable and happy.
I'm glad that you're talking about that point, because I feel that most men would think that pregnancy is the business of a woman and they don't have anything to do with it. I mean, even going to the hospital with the woman would always make her feel that you are part of this whole thing. It's not just her that is going through the bulk of the work. So I think it's really important that men understand their role as far as pregnancy is concerned, and NCDs are also concerned. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's not just the baby of the child that would be affected. The baby belongs to the father too. Yeah. So instead of going through buying curative medications, at the end of the day, it's better you help her prevent it along the line. So Mr. Kinte, this is really a very short period. We would have loved to go beyond this. But before we allow you go, probably we must have left something out that is really important. What do you want to say to the general viewership that are looking at you right now?
To the general viewership, we know pregnancy is important. Hypertension is on the rise, and then it's a public health condition. And then we need to have that concerted effort to ensure that everyone becomes healthy, especially the pregnant women. We know the hypertension, the diabetics, or these NCDs, having them in pregnancy is one thing. Majorly, another NCD that affects pregnant women majorly is anemia. You cannot talk about pregnancy without anemia. It's really important. And then in that anemia, the involvement of men is right. Sometimes it bleeds my heart to see this woman is on labor. I see messages, people calling, we need a woman in labor. This, no, it's too short. Definitely. These are things that we could control at the house. Initially, if this woman goes for her antenatal service, she will be checked up and then inform her HB. That is the hemoglobin level, whether low or high. And then celebratingly if it is high. But then if it is low to that magnitude, it is going down. And then we know with pregnancy, or when the woman is about to deliver, blood is let out. And then with a low content, if you lose anything out of that, that could be serious. So what we could do, let's help them. Helping them means we provide them locally available nutritious diets are important. Let's take things that are important to augment the blood level of these pregnant women. Let's give them diets. We have our beans. We have our churai gerres. The bahals. Let's give them the richest of all. Precisely, we cannot afford meat, which may become sometimes expensive. But once a while, at the end of the month, you said, okay, then these 10 kilos is for you. Huh?
Yes. I mean, even if it's not the 10 kilo, 1 kilo,
this one is specifically for you. You need to eat it comfortably and with peace of mind. So therefore, we have a greater role. A healthy nation is a wealthy nation. We know it's hard to see countries. WHO is calling for what? 1,000 maternal deaths for 100,000 lives. But if you look at our Gambian situation, it's over 200 plus per 1,000 life births. So what do we need to do as a nation? What do we need to do as individual is to go to prevention. We need to prevent ourselves, prevent our families, avoid all these risk factors that I've mentioned. Don't smoke, don't drink, exercise, eat healthy foods, avoid stressful life situation. These are things that are quite important to ensure that women are healthy, everyone is healthy. And when women are healthy, men are healthy. Men are healthy,
because we take care of them.
But if women are sick or otherwise, it's really difficult. And then it's going to be a situation that we don't call for. And then thank you.
So that's it. Mr. Kinte did say it's going to be a situation that we might not call for. Therefore, prevention is quite better than cure. Mr. Kinte, we really want to appreciate you for taking your time to join us on this very important episode to discuss about something that really bothers everybody. Because I know NCDs is something that we will discuss until tomorrow, but we would not be able to exhaust it. But this is what time was able to allow us discuss. And then we want to appreciate you once again for coming with us. Viewers, as we draw the curtain on this particular show, we want to leave you with one big message. Prevention is quite important, and there are several ways we can do this. The closest thing that you can do is to make sure you exercise and eat good food, and make sure you do several checkups. So Mr. Kinte did mention about anemia. I think one of the easiest way we could help ourselves to prevent anemia is to help a bad preparedness and complication readiness plan as a pregnant mother. But we will discuss this in a separate episode. We wouldn't want to bring the horse before the cart. I'm glad that you were able to mention all these very important things that women are going to learn from. Thank you very much.